BTS is not a group born of luxury, nor is it the result of an instant strategy of a large industry. They grew out of cramped rehearsal spaces, from days of doubt, and from dreams that often felt too big for 7 young people barely known to the world. But it is precisely from these limitations that BTS has transformed into a global phenomenon. And at the center of that incredible story, there is one name that from the very beginning stood at the crossroads between raw talent, incredible pressure, and great destiny: Jungkook. Since his first appearance, Jungkook has never been introduced as the most vocal or the most talented in a noisy way. He was silent, with a look that seemed more mature than his age. Many forget that Jungkook entered the BTS world when he was very young. He had not yet fully known the world, but the world had already placed great hopes on his shoulders. And he accepted it without complaint, without drama, without making it a reason to quit. BTS is known as a group that writes its own stories. They don't just sing songs, but voice the wounds, anxieties, and questions of generations. Jungkook was in the middle of that vortex. He is not only the lead vocalist, but the emotional heart that often serves as a bridge between BTS's message and the feelings of listeners. When a BTS song talks about loss, Jungkook doesn't just sing it, he brings it to life. Each note that comes out of his voice carries a load of experiences that not everyone knows about. What makes Jungkook different is not just his technical ability. There are so many great singers out there, but Jungkook has something that's hard to explain with numbers or theory: honesty. As he sang, there was no distance between him and the song. It does not hide behind technique, nor does it make perfection a shield. It allows the listener to see the human imperfection behind an almost flawless voice. BTS is often referred to as the group that changed the direction of the Korean music industry. They refused to bow to the old formula. They talked about mental health when the topic was still considered taboo. Jungkook grew up in that atmosphere of courage. But his courage has a different form. He doesn't talk much in front of the camera, but his actions always answer everything. When the rehearsal lasted until late at night, Jungkook stayed. When other members are exhausted, he instead tries to be a support. There are small moments that the public rarely highlights. The way Jungkook turned to make sure the other members were okay. The way he refrains from stealing the spotlight. The way he chose to work was harder than explaining himself. This is what has led many within the industry, including fellow artists, to refer to Jungkook as a rare type. He does not thirst for validation, but the world continues to give him recognition. BTS is known as a group with strong ties. Their relationship is not the result of imaging, but rather built from years of living together under the same pressure. Jungkook is the youngest, but often assumes no small responsibilities. It learns to mature faster. He learns that small mistakes can be big news. But instead of rebelling, he chose discipline. It was that choice that slowly shaped him into a respected figure, not just loved. As BTS penetrates the global market, the spotlight gets sharper. Jungkook carries not only the group's name, but also a cultural identity. His every appearance becomes a representation. His every move is analyzed. In such conditions, many people will falter. But Jungkook seems to be getting calmer, as if he understands that popularity is not an end in itself, but rather a consequence of consistent hard work. BTS is no ordinary group as they dare to be honest about their journey. Jungkook is no ordinary member as he grew up before the eyes of the world without losing himself. He did not turn into a foreign figure even though the world repeatedly tried to shape him. It remains Jungkook who loves music, who trains without prompting, who wants to get better not to beat others, but to beat himself. Yesterday, in many interviews, Jungkook rarely refers to himself as the center. It always comes back to the word we. Therein lies its strength. He understands that BTS stands not because of one star, but because of 7 lights that reinforce each other. But it is precisely from this attitude that it shines brighter. The world sees humility in the midst of great accomplishments. Today, when BTS is referred to as a living legend, Jungkook's name is always at the forefront of discussions. Not because he asked, but because the traces were too real to ignore. From a teenager who left home for a dream, to a global artist who remains grounded, Jungkook is proof that sincerity still has a place in a tough industry. BTS is no ordinary group because they prove that music can heal, not just entertain. And Jungkook is no ordinary member because he is a mirror of that journey, silent, strong, dedicated, and always honest. His story is not about instant miracles, but rather about choices to persevere, learn, and keep going despite fatigue. And maybe that's the reason why when Jungkook sings, the world chooses to shut up and listen. And when the world chooses silence to listen to Jungkook, it's not because of hype nor because of BTS's big name alone. There's something deeper at work there. An emotional connection born of a long journey, of wounds not always told, and of responsibilities assumed from an age too young to understand the meaning of the burden itself. Jungkook grew up not just as an artist, but as a human being under a spotlight that almost never went out. Many people saw him smiling on stage, dancing with precision, singing steadily as if fatigue had never touched him. But behind that, there were days when he had to learn to brace himself without saying much. He learns that being the youngest does not always mean being pampered. In BTS, he is often the harshest on himself. BTS as a group is known for their courage to challenge industry standards. They are not shaped to be perfect, but to be real. Jungkook absorbed that value early on. He is not afraid to try, not afraid to fail in public. When his voice is hoarse, when he breathes heavily after training, he does not hide it. He goes back to the rehearsal room, repeats and repeats again. The process may be invisible to the camera, but the results are felt by millions of listeners. There's a reason why many people refer to Jungkook as BTS's emotional center. Not because he was always in the middle of the formation, but rather because he was able to unite the group's energy. When BTS performed energetically, Jungkook was there. When their songs touched on themes of loneliness and fear, Jungkook was there too, with a voice that sounded as if he was speaking directly to one person, not to a full stadium. BTS is no ordinary group as they refuse to make fame their ultimate goal. Jungkook too. In the midst of global popularity, he still looks like someone who is hungry for learning. He is interested in musical production, in small details that often go unnoticed by the audience. He is not content to be just a face or a voice. He wanted to understand the whole process, as if he realized that a long career could only last if it was built on understanding, not just talent. The global pressures that BTS faces are often inhumane. Their every move became news. Every pause became speculation. Jungkook is at an age where many people are still searching for their true selves, but he has to do so under the watchful eye of the world. But it is precisely there that his constancy is visible. He has not lost curiosity, has not lost empathy, and has not lost respect for those who walked with him in the first place. Jungkook's relationship with other BTS members is often described as warm. It learns from the elder, but also gives strength in its own way. There are moments when the look in his eyes or a small gesture speaks louder than a long speech. It was not the result of practice, but rather the result of a slowly growing bond, forged by the same difficulties. BTS is often referred to as the voice of a generation. Jungkook is one of the most important notes in that harmony. He represents the doubt, hope, and determination that many young people feel. When he sings about dreams, listeners know it's not an empty metaphor. He was once at a point where dreams felt fragile. He knows the fear of failure, and precisely because of that, his words feel honest. Despite all the achievements, Jungkook still looks like a simple person. He laughs freely, jokes contemptuously, and works with an almost silent focus. The contrast is what makes it so interesting. The world is used to seeing stars change with popularity, but Jungkook grew up without losing his core. BTS is no ordinary group because they proved that teamwork can beat the system. Jungkook is no ordinary member as he becomes a symbol of that outcome, an individual who shines without extinguishing the light of others. He understands that true success is not about who is most visible, but who is most consistent in giving meaning.